Each one of us, then, this is your Board of Selectmen next year, 3 of the 4 of us. Each one of the 3 on that board is an audit on the other 2. There is nothing that the first Selectman can do by fiat without the other 2, at least one of the other 2 supporting, so there is that check. And just to put this in some sort of framework for you, the grand list of the town, which is the sum value of all properties, is $2.62 billion. That's a lot of money. Our annual budget this past year was $63.25 million. We need those checks. None of us are doing this for the fame or the fortune, but it's also very isolating to do this in the absence of an audience. Thank you.
Mr. Gilbert?
The League of Women Voters exists for one reason: to increase public participation in the process. That's why you're here. I know most of the people in this room, and a very large percentage of people in this room actually work in some form of either volunteerism or in the town government. That means to me that we have many, many people in town who participate in the process. Nothing precludes any group of people from forming an audit committee. We have actually audit committees in town. We have people in town who actually know the budget as well or better than the Board of Selectmen or the Board of Finance. They exist. And they exist for all of us. They are non-opinionated, they are totally objective, and they help us understand the budget process. The numbers are transparent. As first selectman, everything that I see, you will see. There are no backdoor deals. There's no backdoor. Everything's in front of the public. It always has been for me. So if 10 people want to form a committee or 15 people want to form a committee, for God's sakes, form one. Look at the numbers. Go to the meetings and provide your insight, because that will make government better. The biggest threat to good government is when the public steps back. Democracy works best when the public steps forward. So for whoever wrote that question, get your group together, attend the meetings, and for God's sakes, help us do a better job.
Thank you. Any rebuttal on that? Okay. The next question goes to Ms. Lerner first. What, if anything, should the Board of Selectmen do to promote further increased recycling in Weston?
Come to my house. No, I'm a big fan of recycling. I anticipated a great deal of questions this morning. This one I did not anticipate. I'll tell you, my husband will not be happy with me saying this, but I love the transfer station, and I do recycle in my own home. That being said, I don't know what we can do. I think public service is important to let people know how to recycle. Making it easier and less expensive is something that was discussed 2 years ago. I think that's important. Certainly, I've mentioned before that I'm very much in favor of green approaches to things, not just to preserve Weston, but because it's more efficient in the long term, because I'm raising children here. So I would certainly be happy to get back to whoever asked that question with more specifics. I think it's a very important question, and I think it's certainly one that's worth pursuing. Thank you.
Mr. Muller?
Again, this is one of those questions that you don't anticipate, but you're really glad someone asked. I think this town functions around the transfer center. It's really fun. The transfer station. It's really fun up there, and you actually really learn who does everything, and you hear really good gossip. So it's a great place to hang out. A little bit messy, but it's still a good place to go. I think that there are a few easy steps. I think most people aren't even aware of everything that can be recycled. And I know that I took my son up there early yesterday morning with a bag of light bulbs and a bag of batteries. And I don't think most people know, A, that they can recycle both of them, or B, that they should recycle both of them. We see at the Onion Barn groups collecting certain items for recycling. I think that if you get the kids in the schools involved, that is ultimately the best way to get parents aware of what they should be doing. If you think of the messages that are given through the health department, the health classes about smoking and other issues, they get all over you when you're doing something that they've been taught in school is wrong or that could be done better. So I think there's an education concept that can be initiated in the schools, getting the young kids to get their parents involved. I remember when I was a Cub Scout, we collected newspapers. You know, everyone who didn't distribute their own, didn't collect newspapers, we had a dad or a mom drive around every Saturday morning and pick up newspapers. We bagged them, and at that point, you could take them and actually get paid for bringing them in. I think it's increased awareness and increased accessibility, and I think that that's pretty much all that the Board of Selectmen can do. Thank you.
Mr. Gilbert?
I'm fortunate because I'm on your Planning and Zoning Commission, and we're just getting into the point where we're writing the plan. We have several drafts, and we're putting it together right now. And that document speaks loudly about how important the environment is to Weston, to each one of us. Speaks loudly about how important trees are to take pollution out of the environment, how important clean water is. And an integral part of that is how we treat the environment. Recycling is part of that. For me, we have a wonderful opportunity with the Plan of Conservation and Development, and I'm sure it will be realized as it gets distributed as an action plan to the environment. Also, it seems to me that there should be an ongoing relationship between the Leshat property and the school system, or other areas in town that are very pristine in the school system that address issues of the environment, like Trout Brook, where environmental science is an integral part of what the kids learn in school. Because there isn't anything more precious to me than clean water and clean air. Recycling is part of that. Another dimension of that would be Green Up Day. It starts here with Kiwanis. That should be, for me, as a selectman, that will be a town-wide project. I'll be a champion for that. Because the best way to teach environmentalism is to be an environmentalist. And the first selectman should certainly be a role model. So it's a town plan of conservation and development. It's an integration of education between, for me, Leshat and the school system. It's Green Up Day. And it's about town leaders being environmentalists, and that will make it happen.
Ms. Weinstein?
Thank you. The question was about recycling? Yes. Okay. Recycling is something that's been on our agenda as one of our open items for quite some time. I don't know how many people know this, but over the summer we renegotiated our contract with the people who take away our garbage, and we are now working with city carting. And thankfully, one of the best things that they have done is we can now recycle number 1 through 7 in plastics, which I thought was just huge. Because I went from throwing out all of those number 5 Arizona iced tea containers, and now I can recycle all of that. And on top of that, what this new contract allowed us to do was actually get paid for our recycling again. For a while there was no market for it, and now we've turned something that could have been a negative into a positive. And I do think we need to look into those kind of alternatives for recycling. There have been some other issues kicking around, but to me, getting people to understand to actually recycle everything that we can recycle would be huge. I do think the environment is incredibly important. Our number one concern, obviously living in a town like Weston, is to protect our water aquifers and our open space. And I think that having a general attitude towards being a town that cares about recycling, that doesn't want to create a garbage dump that's overflowing, and just respecting the property and the land that we live on is something that's very important to all of us.
Any rebuttal on that? All right. The next question is a two-parter. What area, if any, such as social services, in the budget, would you want to increase